Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Academic Writing Coach at Fen Publish and Lead. And today's episode is episode 282, How AI is Impacting Scholarly Publishing, an interview with Dr. Bryan Alexander. Bryan is going to talk to us about textbook and academic publishing and the impact of AI. And I thought the way we lead into our episode today is just to hear a little bit about your background, Bryan. If you could tell us a little bit about, what are you doing? I know you're at Georgetown, you're interested in
Sure.
this topic. What's happening? Tell us how you got interested in it.
Well, I'm a futurist, specializing in the future of higher education. So I study all the different changes that are happening to colleges and universities, everything from presidential leadership to pedagogy to student life, to enrollment and finances. And I try to help people in the academy think more creatively and strategically about the future. One of the ways I do this is by teaching graduate seminars at Georgetown University, where I'm a senior scholar. I teach in a program called Learning, Design, Technology. So I teach seminars on simulations, on technology, on AI. When it comes to AI, this is something I've been tracking for quite some time. There's been waves of AI development, peaks followed by what they call winters or crashes. And I've been following this very closely for it's a disturbing number of years. And now I'm paying a lot of attention to it, in part because the AI revolution is having so many impacts within the academy and beyond it. So I hold AI sessions on my video program, The Future Transformed. I run a Substack newsletter, AI in the Academy. I wrote about AI most recent book, and I'm getting ready to start my next book, which will be largely about AI. It's a fascinating topic for so many reasons, partly because of its complexity, partly because of the huge potential for AI to impact civilization, but also the many different dynamics it has in higher education.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're talking about this because surprisingly, on Defend, Publish, and Lead, we haven't done a lot of episodes on AI yet. So I really like the idea that, you're a futurist. I like that you're really thinking, doing some forward thinking here. I think that's a good way for us to kind of conceptualize this on the podcast. So this is great. I know one of the reasons that we are interviewing you today is because you are the Michael Sullivan Lecture Keynote at the Textbook and Academic Authors Association's Summer Institute. So, for all of our listeners, TAA is our only sponsor. So, you've heard me talk about them on the podcast many times, and we've had pretty much everybody who is presenting give us a little bit about what they're going to be doing at the Institute. And so, one of the things that Bryan will be doing that's a little bit different is that the Institute in itself is a group of writing labs. So, faculty can go to something to learn how to write textbooks better, how to do academic publishing in some way better. But I like it that we're opening with a keynote, just like we would at a regular academic
Mm,
conference. So this is
mm.
really cool. And so what I'd like to hear about, Bryan, if you could talk to us a little bit about that, because I know the topic and the title
Sure.
says it's about AI revolution and it's how it's impacting the future of textbook and academic publishing. And so, because it is future oriented, I think this is kind of cool because a lot of times we go to lectures and, we might hear about, past or, kind of
Yes.
conceptualizing things that have happened before. But this is, looking ahead, maybe using some evidence from today. So, what are we going to learn when we go to the keynote?
Well, to begin with, I'm going to talk about some forces that are reshaping higher education that go beyond technology. So, I'll talk a bit about the changing economics of higher ed, how demographics are changing higher ed, which is really important, as well as policy and cultural changes, which are shifting attitudes towards higher ed, as well as the vexed question of enrollment. Then I'm going to touch on different technologies besides AI, insofar as they impact writing, scholarship, and teaching. So talking about how ebooks have now become a mature platform, talking about the importance of making our scholarship more mobile friendly, which is still a challenge, talking about the possibilities of extended reality. That's a combination of augmented reality, the virtual reality, the power of open education resources, as well as open access and scholarly publishing, and then focus on AI. And so taking a look at that, that hits multiple directions. I mean, one of them is that we know people use AI to write. They use it either to generate content straight up and they run with it, or they use it to assist them in different ways. UNESCO has this really interesting typology, for example, about a dozen different ways that AI can play a role in helping students write. Everything from being a Socratic interlocutor to being a cheerleader to being a guide on the side and so on. A second problem is we have the whole intellectual property issue, which is pretty vexed. That is, AIs are different in different ways and different degrees trained on pre-existing intellectual property. So, should we support lawsuits against these companies for doing that? What about individual publishers who are making agreements with AI companies to license their materials there? Lots of questions about that. There's challenges to the whole scholarly publishing ecosystem and the textbook publishing ecosystem that we have, among other things, a big flood of new content. And some of it's wholly generated by AI, some of it's partially generated by AI. So there are all kinds of questions and policies that we're trying to solve right now. To what extent should an author disclose how much AI they use? How is that verified? Should we rely on third-party verifiers, a kind of good housekeeping seal of how much AI went into something? We also have to think about some of the other uses of AI, including, for example, tools like NotebookLM, which can serve as a kind of sounding board or virtual colleague for helping improve AI. There's also the question of the reverse, which is some academics who are very, very anti-AI and don't want to see this involved in any part of the academic ecosystem, including publishing and writing. Um, Beyond this, we have to think as well about how AI is transforming the entire writing ecosystem, including trade publishing as well as marketing. So we have to, in many ways, scramble to do all this. I mean, overall, one of the things that I keep coming back to is that the academy and the world are very, very divided on AI. Not between enthusiasts and enemies, but between people who are exploring it and using it, and those who think this is, a horror and one that we should avoid. There's also this interesting dynamic that the whole world is trying to grapple with AI, trying to figure out what it means for everything from, how does a companion bot affect mental health to how should businesses change the workforce? I mean, all kinds of stuff. And this is where I think academia plays a key role because we have so much intellectual capacity to bring to bear on this subject. I mean, if you're worried about a grandparent who's spending a lot of time with a chatbot, well, we have people in psychology who, this is something they can give professional advice on. If you're worried
Makes
about what,
sense.
no, yeah, it should be. I mean, if you're worried about what AI does to your job, right? So we have people in economics who can help with this. If you're worried about, if your questions are, where does this come from? Of course, we have people in computer science and history who can help. And so my point is that the academy right now can play a leading role in shaping how the whole human race grapples with AI. And I think that plays out in terms of writing, insofar as so many people write, so how this affects the publishing industry, but also, how we write about this. I mean, are there lots and lots of critical books on AI as well as supportive books? I mean, so the AI, the industry of publishing about AI is burgeoning as well. So there's a lot going on in this talk.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. I appreciate your time and talking to us about it. And I will make sure that I put a link in our show notes to your website so people can find all the things and see all the references that you mentioned. Also, I will have a link on our website or show notes to our TAA Institute because we are still taking registrations for it. And the keynote itself will be on Friday, June 12th at 10 a.m. Eastern. And then there is time to talk with Bryan after and do some work there. So, with all the things at the Institute, you can do that when you go to any of the sessions. There's some work time after to work with all of the presenters. But I appreciate your time today, Bryan. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Oh, my pleasure, Christine. Always good to talk to you.
Happy writing, everyone.